July 11th, 1943. Late afternoon. Outside Gela, Sicily. The heat lies heavy on the olive groves, pressing the air flat. Dust hangs where trucks have passed, refusing to settle. Somewhere ahead, just beyond the low stone wall, the German guns answer again. A sharp crack, then the deeper, chest-thumping thud of artillery landing short. George S. Patton stands beside his jeep, helmet tilted back, ivory-handled pistols riding low on his hips. He squints into the shimmer of the distance, studying a line no one else can quite see. His escort shifts uneasily. A captain glances at his watch, then toward the front, where the ground dips and disappears into smoke. Patton doesn't speak. Another shell lands closer this time. The concussion ripples through the grove. Leaves rain down. Somewhere a runner flinches and ducks. Patton steps forward. Not toward cover, not back to the jeep. Forward, past the stone wall, past the last American foxholes, into open ground. "Sir!" someone starts. Patton lifts one gloved hand without looking back. A casual wave, dismissive, final. And then he's gone. From the jeep, it happens almost too quickly to register. One moment the general is there, solid, unmistakable. Next he has crossed the shallow rise and dropped out of sight, swallowed by the broken terrain and the smoke drifting from the enemy line. The firing doesn't stop. In fact, it intensifies. A German machine gun opens up somewhere ahead, stitching the air with a hard metallic chatter. Artillery follows, measured now, walking closer. The staff officers freeze in place, eyes locked on the empty ground where Patton vanished. No radio call comes back, no signal, no movement. You can almost feel the seconds stretching, pulling thin. 30 seconds, a minute, longer. No one says it out loud, but everyone is thinking the same thing. He's been hit. This isn't supposed to happen. Generals don't just walk into the line of fire. They observe from ridges. They command from maps. They send others forward to see. But George Patton has never been like other generals.
The captain nearest the jeep grips his field glasses so hard his knuckles whiten. He scans the ground again and again, as if Patton might simply reappear by force of will. Another shell lands farther down the slope, too far to help, too close for comfort. Still nothing. A lieutenant steps closer to the wall, half crouched, as though bracing for news that hasn't arrived yet. Someone mutters a prayer. Another officer reaches instinctively for the radio handset, then stops. Who would he even call? The staff knows the ground ahead. They've seen the map. They know where the German line should be, where it is, and how exposed the approach is. Patton didn't just cross into danger. He walked straight through it. Minutes pass. Long enough for doubt to settle in. Long enough for the idea to take root that the most aggressive commander in the American army may have just been killed by a shell meant for someone else. And then, movement. A figure crests the rise, dust-covered, upright, unhurried. Patton. He walks back the way he came, boots steady, posture relaxed, as if returning from a stroll rather than a battlefield under fire. The shooting continues around him, but he doesn't flinch. Don't hurry. When he reaches the stone wall, he stops, looks back once more toward the enemy line, then turns to his stunned staff. "Well," he says calmly, "now I know where they are." Only then does anyone breathe. But what Patton saw out there, what made him walk alone into German fire, has already begun to change what will happen next. And no one standing by that jeep realizes just how close they came to losing him, or how much danger he's about to invite again.
Patton doesn't wait for questions. He pulls off his gloves, tucks them into his belt, and reaches for a map already unfolding on the hood of the jeep. The paper flaps in the warm Sicilian wind. Someone tries to weigh it down with a helmet. "Here," Patton says, stabbing a finger at a contour line just short of the ridgeline. "They're not where we thought." The officers lean in, still half dazed. Sweat streaks through dust on their faces. A captain clears his throat. "Sir, we believe the main German position was..." Back, Patton finishes for him. Yes, so did they want us to believe. His voice is calm, almost conversational, but his eyes are alive now, bright, sharp, energized by what he's just seen with his own eyes. Out there, beyond the wall, Patton hadn't gone wandering, he'd gone hunting. From the forward slope, crouched low between shell bursts, he'd studied the ground the way a cavalryman studies terrain, where fire converges, where it hesitates, where men must be hiding even if you can't see them yet. He'd followed the rhythm of the guns, the angles of impact, the subtle pauses that betray nervous crews shifting barrels. The German line wasn't deep, it wasn't fixed, it was thin, too thin for a determined push, and Patton knew it. They're delaying, he says now, tracing a shallow arc across the map, screening us, trying to buy time for a fallback line farther north. A major frowns. Our intelligence is late because it's based on yesterday. Patton straightens and looks toward the front again. Another explosion blooms against the ridge, black smoke curling upward. Somewhere out there, German gunners are doing their jobs, unaware they've just been personally inspected by the enemy's most aggressive general. Patton turns back to his staff. We hit them now, hard, before they can pull out clean. There's a pause, just a fraction too long. Patton notices. He always notices. Gentlemen, continues Patton, voice tightening, this is not a line meant to stop us. It's meant to slow us. And the only reason it will slow us is if we let it. The implication hangs heavy in the air. This isn't a suggestion, it's a challenge. Orders start snapping out. Regiments reposition. Artillery adjusts fire. Radios crackle back to life, relaying new coordinates. Coordinates Patton provided not from aerial photos or reports, but from dirt-level observation under live fire. As the machinery of attack grinds forward, a lieutenant finally finds the nerve to ask what everyone else is thinking. Sir, permission to ask. Patton looks at him. One eyebrow lifts. When you crossed forward, the lieutenant says carefully, did you encounter direct fire? Patton pauses, just long enough. Of course, he says. The lieutenant swallows. And, sir, if I may, why go alone? Patton's gaze shifts back to the ridge, to the guns, to the men waiting to be ordered forward. Because, he says quietly, no one fights harder for ground he hasn't seen. The lieutenant nods, though it's not clear he understands, not fully. Patton does not explain further. He rarely does. This wasn't bravado for show, not entirely. Patton had been raised on stories of ancient commanders, Caesar riding with the legions, Murat charging with cavalry plumes flying, leaders who shared danger to understand it. To Patton, command wasn't distance, it was proximity. And Sicily, July 1943, was proving to be a war of misjudged distances. The invasion had begun days earlier, a chaotic collision of airborne drops gone wrong, units scattered, and German counterattacks probing for weakness. Patton's 7th Army had been assigned what many considered a secondary role, protect the British flank and secure the western half of the island. Patton had other ideas. He wanted momentum, speed, shock. And momentum dies quickly when a commander hesitates because he doesn't trust the picture he's being given. That's why he'd stepped past the escort. Why had he waved them off? Why had he walked into fire while others watched frozen? He needed to know. Now he did. The attack unfolds faster than expected. American artillery pounds the shallow German positions Patton identified. Infantry pushes forward, cautious at first, then more confidently as resistance falters. Prisoners are taken, young, tired, surprised to find Americans already pressing them so hard.
Reports filter back, confirmations. Patton's assessment was right. The line was a screen, and it's breaking. Patton listens, nodding once. Then he does something that makes several officers exchange looks. He steps forward again. Not as far this time, but closer than doctrine allows.
close enough to watch men move, to hear the rhythm of small arms fire shift as pressure mounts. A colonel edges up beside him. "Sir, you've seen enough. We can—" Patton cuts him off with a sideways glance. "Colonel," he says evenly, "I will know when I've seen enough." The colonel falls silent. Behind Patton's calm exterior, something else is working, a calculation. Every moment gained here means miles gained later. Every German unit forced to retreat in disorder now won't be waiting, entrenched tomorrow. This is how Patton fights wars, not blow by blow, but tempo against tempo. The ridge finally goes quiet. Smoke drifts. The sound of gunfire recedes, replaced by shouted commands and the clatter of men moving forward. Victory, small, local, but real. Patton exhales slowly. And then, almost immediately, his mind moves on, because this was never about this ridge. It was about what comes next. As the staff gathers again, one of the intelligence officers speaks up, cautious. "Sir, if the Germans are pulling back here, it suggests a larger movement, possibly toward Messina," Patton finishes. The name lands hard. Messina, the gateway of Sicily, the escape route, the place where German forces could slip away across the strait, regroup, and fight another day. Patton's jaw tightens. He looks east. If they're retreating already, then the race has begun, and Patton has no intention of losing it. He folds the map with deliberate care. "Get me the fastest units we have," he says. "Fuel, ammunition, everything. We move as soon as the road allows." An aide hesitates. "Sir, British command expects us to—"
Patton turns, eyes cold now. "The enemy does not care what British command expects," he says. "Neither do I." The staff knows that look. Orders fly, engines start, and somewhere beyond the ridge, Patton walked alone to see German officers making their own calculations, unaware that the man hunting them had already made the most dangerous move of all. He has seen the battlefield with his own eyes, and once Patton sees you, he does not slow down. The road east is narrow and broken, curling through hills baked pale by the Sicilian sun. Dust trails behind the lead vehicles like smoke from a slow fire. Patton rides forward, standing in his jeep despite the jarring ruts, binoculars pressed to his eyes. This is where his gamble matures. The German withdrawal accelerates exactly as he predicted, rear guards delaying, bridges threatened, columns slipping away just ahead of encirclement. Every mile becomes a contest of hours, sometimes minutes, and Patton is everywhere. He appears at the crossroads before staff officers expect him. He turns up at artillery positions unannounced, correcting aim with a glance. He steps into infantry bivouacs at dawn, boots already dusty, asking questions no report ever answers. Where is the ground soft? Where do the trucks bog? Which road do the locals avoid, and why? To his men, it feels like the general never sleeps. To his staff, it feels worse. They lose him more than once. A radio call goes unanswered. A jeep returns without him. An aide arrives breathless, helmet crooked, only to say, "Sir, the general dismounted back there, and, well, he told us to wait." Wait. It becomes a recurring nightmare, because Patton keeps doing it, stepping away from protection, walking forward, vanishing into the battlefield to see what no map can show. Each time, the same dread sets in. The same quiet calculation spreads among the officers. If he's killed now, what happens to the army? Patton understands the risk. He simply accepts it. To him, absence is more dangerous than exposure. On July 22nd, near the town of Troina, German resistance stiffens. There is no screen. This is a stand. The terrain favors defense, steep ridges, narrow approaches, and interlocking fire. Patton arrives as artillery fire hammers the slopes. The noise is constant now, rolling like thunder trapped in the hills. Casualties mount, progress slows. And again, inevitably, Patton moves forward. This time, he disappears for nearly 10 minutes. 10 minutes under sustained fire. An aide starts drafting messages in his head, who to notify, how to phrase the unthinkable. A colonel grips the radio handset so tightly that his hand cramps. Then Patton reappears, striding back through the smoke. He doesn't comment on the danger, doesn't acknowledge the tension he's caused. He points. "They're strongest there," he says, indicating a ridge slightly offset from where American pressure has been focused, which means they're weakest here. He's right. The adjustment breaks the position within hours. It becomes a pattern repeated across Sicily. Patton vanishes, Patton returns, the enemy line shifts, and then collapses. By the time American forces reach Messina in mid-August, the race is over. The Germans escape in large numbers, but not intact, not cleanly, not without cost. Patton arrives at the city just ahead of the British. He insists on seeing the strait immediately, standing at the water's edge, staring across toward Italy as if daring the war itself to keep going. For a moment, he is quiet. Later, aides will remember that moment more than his speeches, because it is there, at the edge of Sicily, that the meaning of his vanishing acts becomes clear. Patton was never reckless for the sake of danger. He vanished because he refused to command a war he couldn't touch, because he believed that leadership meant sharing uncertainty before issuing certainty, because he trusted his own eyes more than any report, and his presence more than any protocol. The staff will joke about it later. Dark humor. Careful, someone will say, the general's gone missing again. But beneath the jokes is something else, respect and relief. Because every time Patton disappeared into fire and smoke, he came back, not just alive, but sharper, more certain, already shaping the next move. They thought he was dead, more than once. But George S. Patton was never really gone. He was simply out there, alone, under fire, deciding how the war would move next.